the last episode of Season 3. There's a lot to take in here. This episode is special for quite a few things. Firstly, we have the trick-or-treaters. Cuddles, who's finally back after missing Season 2. Newcomer here is Larry Koopa. Yeah, I like to dub this season the Nintendo season. And here is precisely why. And yeah, even more Kenny. This show has really become the Kenny and Nintendo show, which I really don't mind all that much. It's good to use different characters every once in a while. Here, we have King Dedede in an episode for a third time. Kenny and Dedede peaked in this year, with Season 25 of South Park and Kirby's return to Dreamland Deluxe. It makes sense for them to get more spotlight this time around. This almost feels like a sponsor lol. Here's Larry Koopa beating up Dedede. Again, wanted to do more with the characters' actual personalities. Here's a Bandana D cameo too. There's a lot of Kirby cameos in this season. I sure wonder who's behind that door. Looky here. It's the fan favorite. Are y'all happy now? I must say, this episode is probably my popular one in this season, for obvious reasons. There's Flippy for one. Haven't actually used him in a full-length episode up to this point. But also, this is when the episode actually feels like Happy Tree Friends. Case in point, Flippy flips out and is about to go on a rampage. Now it's time. Flippy sets his target, brings out a weapon, the suspiciously sharp lollipop, and leaves a hole in Cuddles' heart. Ah, poor Cuddles. I feel real bad for him. I hope things work out for him. Imagine running away from a bear, only to be clamped by a bear trap, LMFAO. Also, here's Chef PP. He hasn't been seen in a long time. And of course, still getting bodily harm as per usual. Never change, PP. Now this death right here is one of my favorites. I think this one of the times where I nailed the Happy Tree Friends timing. Or at least, that's what I think. I just think it's funny. You have the mascot, you have the fan favorite, so now here's the main moose himself. Felt nice to have Lumpy run over Flippy. Definitely made up for, in Over Your Hedge. By this point, I'd call this the most Happy Tree Friends-like episode in a long while. Nice to see me actually try to adapt the show's formula into this crossover mess. And to top it all off, Lumpy gets his just desserts. Now we're on the second Flippy episode. This one is a bit less ambitious than the last, but I think it was pretty popular. Here, you got Flippy knocking on the door. Yeah, by this point, you know what to expect. And look at what we have here. Another pop appearance. You know, if you want a Happy Tree Bear Trio episode, let me know. I'm curious to know how that would turn out. Anyway, Flippy. Yeah, I barely use him, but he's barely used in the actual show too. Like, I use Flippy sparingly. He's gimmicky and takes over. That's why he has limited appearances compared to, say, Kenny. And yeah, Chef PP's here too. I think he would just be a funny joke character, so that's why I keep him around. Anyway, here's Flippy flipping out. Yeah, this is pretty dynamic to most scenes in this show. I just had to emphasize Flippy's mental breakdown. Anyway, PP is back again, and he's about to perish in a brutal way. Again, he's just a fun character to use. I think it's the way I drew him. He's all cutesy and appealing, so I developed a soft spot for him. And there's Tweak. He's also a favorite character of mine. Gory Toons fun fact, this is Tweak's first demise. You know, Flippy episodes have become a yearly tradition with the release of Veteran's Vengeance. Literally, I realized the appeal of Flippy. He's dynamic, he's awesome, he's interesting, he's compelling. I think Gory Toons had gotten better since he's became a mainstay. And yeah, you Flippy's still gonna have far and few in-between appearances, but expect more Flippy eps to come when I get back to this show. It's Flippy time to shine again. I make it a mission to make these sort of eps, since he's the most popular character. A special note about this episode, this was in production for a long time. Yeah, it took a span of 4 years to make this. That's probably why this might be slightly better than my usual stuff, haha. Flippy episodes are essentially a yearly tradition at this point. For when Gory Toons somehow makes its return, expect a Flippy episode each year. My honest opinion about Flippy, he's really fun. I can totally see why people love him. But in all honesty, it requires genius to come up with Flippy kills. They're usually elaborate and creatively designed. In this episode, I had to really think to come up with really good Flippy kills. A lot of these kills could be a lot better, to be honest, rewatching this now, but some Flippy kills do get a small laugh out of me. IMO, I wouldn't call this my best episode. Not by a long shot. I think that title goes to All for Ski, Dieseling Derby, or Good Fright. I even prefer some other episodes over this one. But I would say, this is an improvement in any regard. The animation is a lot more fluid, there's a bit more details, and I think a few gags might make this funny. There's Clara. Hey Clara. Let's talk about Clara. She's my OC. It's a rule that she is the one Gory Toons character to never die. Again, IRC, that has something to do with her being my OC. She's gotten some development, but not much, but in a foreseeable Gory Toons revival, I would want to expand upon Clara. Give her more episodes. I'm not sure what her gimmick should be. At most, she's a maid. Should I make her a cooking-themed character? Actually, that sounds like a fun idea. Anyway, like Flippy, expect a yearly Clara appearance in the following seasons. Maybe even a few, since she's meant to be more a supporting character rather than an occasional one. Okay, so this is what I mean by my effort of making Flippy's kills creative. This toothy one is an example. I really had to think to make this one. It's really a death HDF hasn't done before, so I thought it would be a cool Flippy kill. There's Kyle's dad. Since he's a scum, it would be perfect to use this Flippy kill on him. Rest in piss, Jerry. Now this one death is my favorite in the whole episode. Maybe it's because it felt like a traditional HDF death. Or maybe it's the comedic timing. Whatever it is, this death felt the most clean and HDF-inspired. The following deaths have a bit less flair in my opinion. Flippy's a lot more reckless from this point forward. I guess using tools would be a bit too obvious. Sniffles' reaction was pretty funny, though. Sniffles always gets the worst ways to perish, so this episode was no exception. Poor Sniffles. I really showed all his organs there. But imagine if Flippy used a wrecking ball. That would be crazy. Now this demise is a lot more edgy, I guess. I really wanted to drive home the idea of Kirby being flattened like a pancake by a wrecking ball. Also, Stan and Kyle appearance. For a third time, I seriously need to use these characters. Now I get how HTF fans or SP fans feel when they get nothing but Randy/Lumpy content. I will try to not cram in Pop or SpongeBob in every episode I make. If anything, I want to make more episodes about the other Happy Tree friends or the actual main characters of South Park. Anyway, I think this Flippy kill right here is a bit lame. I wanted to do a gag, but it ended up being a bit underwhelming. I'll definitely try to step up my game in the possible Gory Toons Season 6. Flippy is a character you have to master. He's so well written, but you have to implement so many key elements of his episodes that make him such a good character. This episode could be a lot better, believe me. One problem I have with it is that I made it too cartoony. When I make the next Flippy episode, I want to make it grim. Flippy is a stealthy character. He sneaks around to deal with his targets. He's also seen from many angles and shots. One problem I have with Gory Toons is that the angles aren't too dynamic. It's a bit too two-dimensional. I always want to patch up Gory Toons animations. Make the characters look a lot more fluid and clean. Expect the too much screen time effect to happen possibly. And we cap off this episode with possibly the most elaborate Flippy kill. This Flippy kill took the most effort. This deals with a lot of classic tropes, and the final product is definitely interesting. You know my opinion on Petunia, and honestly, I think I've done her justice in this show. She gets a lot of scenes and deaths. She's a really fun character to maim. And yeah, that was the Flippy episode. It was something. Flippy as a character is amazing. Did I convert that well into a crossover? That's for you to decide. Anyway, that's all.